Hey everybody, John Huber here, Maryland Education Network, brought to you by Maryland K-12. Talked a little bit about this release yesterday, which was Tuesday, December the 6th, from the Maryland State Department of Education. They finally released the scores for the 2022 spring of 2022. These were taken back in April of the MCAP, which is the test that replaced the PARC. Excuse me. So anyway, there's a lot going on in this little release that they have. See if I can break it down a little bit for you. First of all, it says they released it, et cetera, et cetera. It's the first year of the new test. So as a result, they're saying that they have to take a time to set the standards, set the cut scores. You know, okay, that makes sense, because anytime you give a new test, you have to kind of see where the kids are and kind of see what the scores are. And I'll get to that in a little bit. Anyway, however they define them, they define there's 4 levels, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and the first 2 levels are considered proficient, and the other 2 levels are considered not proficient. And they have different words for those, which I'll go in a second. But anyway, statewide, they say, what I'm getting at here is what's hidden in this is the wording. Okay, statewide, the 2021-22 assessments saw the greatest improvements across grades, with 45% in grades 3, etc., and 40. And it gives you a bunch of percentages, and it says these results demonstrate increasing proficiency in comparison to the assessments in the early fall 2021 and suggest a return to pre-pandemic outcomes. All right, let's take a look at, real quick, a little bit of the history. I don't want to go on too long about this, because, the longer I talk, the less people listen. 2020, in the year 2020, schools shut down. I'll never forget it. It was Friday the 13th, March 13th, 2020. Maryland schools shut down. They stayed shut down the rest of that year, and they started partially opening in the 2021 school year. The second half of the year, they started bringing kids back and whatnot. So they had a full reopening in the fall of 2021. Okay, now they hadn't taken any tests since the previous spring, about a year and a half. So as soon as the kids came back in the fall of 21, they instantly gave them tests, like within the first month or so of them being there. So when they talk about these fall 2021 pre-pandemic scores, and they're comparing them to them, those scores were horrible. And they were horrible for a couple of reasons. Number one, they were shortened, and they really didn't assess a lot of what had been learned or not learned over the shutdown period. And the second thing is that they were so quick when the kids came back. They walked through the door and they said, "Okay, come in, have a seat. We're going to take a test." So when you put all that together, that caused a very, very poor performance. So and I said at the time, I said they're doing this so that when the following spring comes, they're going to be able to say, "Wow, look at all the improvements." So they kind of accomplished that a little bit. So whenever they refer to these fall 2021 tests in the early fall, and they even say the early fall 2021, you're talking about like the late September, early October. But anyway, those scores were horrible. So almost anything compared to those scores would be would be considered an improvement. Then it says in math, students saw gains nearly all grades as compared to the prior year's assessment administered in the fall 21. So here again, they're saying, "Yay, look, we have every guy." And then hidden there, it says, "However, student outcomes have not returned to pre-pandemic levels." So let's take a look real quick, and I'm not going to throw a lot of numbers at you, but just to say real quick what's going on here. ELA, language arts. The only thing they've reported so far is grades 3, 4, and 5, and 10. They haven't reported the middle school grades yet. That's another thing that we're waiting. So in grades 3, 4, and 5, 3 and 4 have 45% proficient, whereas in the 2021, it was only they were in the 20s. But there was an increase over what it was like in 2019, which is the last time they took a legitimate test. And then they kind of approached that in the 5th grade with 40% as opposed to 43% in 2019. I'm referring to 2019 because the fall of 2021, forget those folks. They really meant a whole lot of nothing. And then they report the 10th grade, which also showed an increase over 2019. All right, so they're showing you the ones that increase. Math, they're reporting 17.6% in 6th grade, as opposed to 30% in 2019. And the reason they're reporting that is because there was only 20% in the shortened 2021 version. So they've actually gotten worse in the same year in the 6th grade. And in the 8th grade, only 6.5% passed the test, and Algebra 1, only 14% passed. The math are horrible. They do not suggest they return to pre-pandemic level. In the ELA, the ones they report do, but they've only reported 4 grades, and they haven't reported all of them. So we'll wait and see. And then they go on to talk about this standard setting, which is good. You have to do that because anytime you initially administer a test, you have to set the standard. It took them an awful long time to do it, supposedly 6 months. I don't know. There's a whole bunch of stuff they put out on their process that they do for standard setting. Anyway, there's a bunch of language in here from the state superintendent, et cetera, et cetera. We have much work to do. Even though we have much work to do, these early improvements affirm the active engagement and unwavering commitment of our teachers and school leaders, et cetera, et cetera. I know the school leaders are committed. The teachers are committed. We all know that. Okay. The question is how can we improve the performance on these tests? And they took a long time setting these standards. So I can only imagine what was going on in these rooms. Anyway, all Maryland students participating in the 2022 will receive an individual report, and they say by the January board meeting they'll have the full report out. The only thing I can say is these just about anything you do now is going to look like an improvement, which is what I said at the time. And some of them are kind of getting close to the 2019, just the ones they reported. I suspect the ones they have not reported yet are even worse. So they're just going to sit back and wait for that. The other thing that interests me is the softening of the language. You remember years ago you had a test? You had pass, you had fail. You had you did this, you did that. You achieved the standards, you didn't achieve the standards. Now they have softened all these languages. There's 4 performance levels, as I mentioned earlier. Distinguished learner, proficient learner, developing learner, and beginning learner. Don't you like that? It's so soft. Like we can't tell someone, oh, you failed or you didn't meet standards. And it's not a pass-fail test. It's on a scale, and they want to see where the achievement levels are. Why can't we say proficient, non-proficient, or use stronger words? But they won't do that. They want to do that. So anyway, there's a lot hidden in here. What the main issue seems to be, as I mentioned before, pre-pandemic level versus these fall of it's like pre-pandemic level is here, the fall of 21 went way down here. Now they're sort of a little bit in here somewhere, and they want to talk about this great improvement they made from the fall. So I knew at the time that's what they were up to. This whole language with the beginning learner, developing learner, proficient learner, and distinguished learner is another thing that they got going on. So anyway, that's what's going on. There's no question about it, that they are just trying to soften the blow a little bit. Which is, if I was in their case, in their shoes, I'd probably do the same thing. But if you look between the lines, there's a lot more going on here. So anyway, that's it. I got a lot more coming up. There are all sorts of things right around the corner. Towson High meeting tonight. If you're interested in that, I'm going to take a look at that. And a lot of things going on in the state in terms of education. And website-wise, I got a big website coming out in January. I'm going to lots of opportunities for interaction and social media interaction, whatnot. So lots of things coming up in terms of education. I'd love to hear from you. Shoot me an email or message, give me a message, whatnot. I'd be happy to respond to you. So anyway, thanks. Have a great day.